Most people think early retirement requires millions or rich parents. They're wrong. Right now, you're likely sitting on a $200,000 gold mine, yet you're starving inside a high security vault I call equity jail. While the masses waste years debating crypto versus index funds, you are trading your life for a paycheck that inflation is devouring. This video is not about buying a dozen properties or chasing the latest speculative bubble. It is the definitive blueprint on how one single property, managed with the precision of a Wall Street hedge fund, can generate $14,000 in annual passive income without you ever moving out. This is the solo asset engine, the definitive blueprint to escape the work until 70 trap. Before we dismantle the lies how much equity is currently staring at the wall in your home, comment your age and city below. Let's see if you're sitting on a gold mine or a graveyard. Most people view a home as a liability dressed up as an investment. They celebrate the day they pay off their mortgage, thinking they have reached the finish line. In reality, they have just locked their wealth in a static vault. This is the first law of the elite. Capital that does not move is capital that dies. We call this state equity jail. When you have $300,000 in home equity and a 0% return on that capital, you are not safe. You are inefficient. You are essentially hiring a genius employee and paying them a massive salary to sweep the floor. The builders, the true visionaries of wealth, do not seek the comfort of a paid-off roof. They seek the velocity of capital. Let us look at the raw data, the kind of math the average person avoids because it challenges their sense of security. Imagine a property purchased for $420,000. At a standard appreciation rate of 4% in a prime growth hub, that house is worth $620,000 a decade later. While the average person looks at that $200,000 gain and feels a sense of pride, the elite investor looks at it and sees a missed opportunity. That $200,000 is dead. It is sitting in the drywall. By accessing that equity through a structured credit facility and redeploying it into high-velocity assets, you transform a silent house into a loud income stream. But here is where most amateur advice fails you, especially in the 2026 market. You will hear people talk about borrowing at 7% to invest at 8%. That is not a strategy. That is a gamble with a razor-thin margin. The channel approach is based on the law of arbitrage. In a high-interest rate environment, you do not just chase a yield, you chase a spread. To make the solo asset engine work today, you must understand the cost of capital. If your debt costs you 7%, your asset must deliver a hybrid yield. This means a combination of cash flow, tax depreciation, and equity growth that nets an effective return of 12 to 15%. This is the difference between a YouTuber giving you a tip and a strategist giving you a system. We must address the elephant in the room: risk. The average person stays poor because they view risk as something to be avoided. The elite stay wealthy because they view risk as something to be priced and managed. When the market cools or interest rates fluctuate, the person with 10 overleveraged properties is the first to drown. But the person with one optimized solo asset is the one who pivots. You have the flexibility to deleverage, to house hack, or to add an accessory dwelling unit to force appreciation. One house is a scalpel. 10 houses are a heavy, blunt instrument that is difficult to swing in a recession. Stop and ask yourself a hard question. Are you holding on to your equity because it is the smart financial move, or are you holding on to it because you are afraid of the debt? If you realize that your desire for safety is actually the thing keeping you stuck in the middle class, you are finally ready to learn. Now, let us talk about the acquisition filter. You do not just buy any house. In 2026, the era of passive appreciation is over. You cannot just buy a property and wait for the world to get more expensive. You must identify assets with value-add potential. We are looking for the ugly duckling in the golden neighborhood. We want properties where a $20,000 cosmetic renovation leads to a $60,000 increase in appraised value. This is not about granite countertops. It is about layout optimization. Can you add a bedroom within the existing footprint? Can you convert a garage into a high-end workspace for the remote elite? This is how you manufacture equity rather than waiting for the market to give it to you. The second law of the solo asset engine is the principle of proximity. Do not buy where you want to vacation. Buy where the highest concentration of indispensable workers lives. We are looking for areas near medical hubs, specialized manufacturing, or emerging tech corridors. These are the recession-proof zones. While the luxury market is volatile and the low-income market is risky, the middle-class professional rental market is the bedrock of global finance. This is where your one house becomes a fortress. By the time you reach year 15 of this strategy, the math becomes staggering. Your mortgage has been paid down by your tenants or your optimized house hacking strategy. Your property value has climbed. You now control $1 million asset with minimal debt. At this point, you are not just a homeowner. You are the CEO of a private equity firm with a single highly profitable subsidiary. You can leverage this position to fund your entire lifestyle. This is the moment work becomes a choice, not a requirement. You are no longer trading your hours for dollars. You are trading the output of your asset for your freedom. Think about the psychological shift that occurs when you realize your home is a producer rather than a consumer. The average person wakes up every morning knowing they must work to pay for their house. The visionary wakes up knowing their house is working to pay for their life. This changes how you negotiate your salary. It changes the risks you are willing to take in your career. It changes the very posture with which you walk through the world. You are no longer a victim of the system. You are an architect of your own economy. I want you to be honest with yourself for a moment. We have all been conditioned to believe that we need to suffer for 40 years to earn the right to relax. We have been told that debt is always a burden and that a paid-off house is the ultimate trophy. How many opportunities have you walked away from because you were playing it safe? How many years of your life have you traded for a sense of security that is actually an illusion? This is a space for those who are ready to admit that the old way is broken. Share a story in the comments about a time you followed the traditional rules and it led you straight into a dead end. We are here to listen, and the community is here to support your pivot. Let us refine the tactical execution of the solo asset engine. In the 2026 landscape, liquidity is king. While you are building equity, you must also be building a liquidity buffer. You do not deploy every cent of equity the moment it becomes available. You wait for the window of opportunity. This is the period when markets overcorrect, when fear is high, and when high-quality assets go on sale. By having your solo asset optimized and your credit lines ready, you can strike when others are retreating. This is how the 1% doubles their wealth in a single cycle. They use the stability of their core asset to fund the acquisition of undervalued opportunities. The beauty of the one-house strategy is its simplicity in management. Managing a dozen properties is a full-time job that requires a staff, a fleet of contractors, and a constant state of stress. Managing one high-quality, optimized property is a hobby that takes 4 hours a month. You are not buying a job. You are buying your time back. The goal of Channel is not to make you a busy landlord, it is to make you a free individual. We prioritize capital efficiency over ego. We would rather own one property that nets $2,000 a month than 10 properties that net $200 each. The mental bandwidth you save is your most valuable asset. As we look toward the future, the global economy is only becoming more complex. Taxes will rise. Inflation will persist. The traditional retirement accounts that worked for your parents will not be enough for you. You need a tangible anchor. You need an asset that you can see, touch, and control. A brokerage statement is just pixels on a screen. A house in a high-demand corridor is a fundamental human necessity. Even if the stock market experienced a lost decade, the demand for high-quality shelter would remain. You are betting on the one thing that has never gone to zero in the history of human civilization: land and rooftops. The solo asset engine is more than a financial tactic. It is a declaration of independence from a system designed to keep you productive but poor. The transition from a consumer mindset to an owner mindset is the most difficult leap you will ever take. But once you see the world through the lens of asset velocity and arbitrage, you can never go back to the darkness of the 9-to-5 grind. You realize that wealth is not about how much money you make, but how much freedom your money buys. As for those of you still watching, the elite who have stayed until the end, Here is the final hard truth that no one else will tell you. Diversification is a trap for the middle class. The wealthy do not diversify to build wealth. They concentrate to build wealth and diversify only to protect it. If you want to change your life, you need to stop spreading your limited resources across 10 different index funds and start concentrating your focus on one high-performance asset. Mastery of one thing will always outperform mediocrity in many things. Become the undisputed expert on your one house, your one neighborhood, and your one strategy. If you are ready to stop being a passenger in your own life and start being the pilot, I want you to comment the secret password, I am awake. This tells us in the community that you have moved past the illusions of the masses and are ready to execute the solo asset engine. This journey requires courage, precision, and the right circle of influence. If this analysis has shifted your perspective, like this video and share it with one person who is still trapped in the traditional retirement mindset. Subscribe and join the visionaries. We do not provide advice, we provide the laws of the new economy. Your next move is critical. Do not go back to scrolling. Click the video on the screen right now to learn how to identify the specific 2026 growth hubs where the solo asset engine performs at its peak. The window of opportunity is closing. Move with intent. We will see you in the next one.